Is this the sound or anything? Am I? Welcome, everyone. These are my glasses. I'm going to read some notes for you today, my friends, and we're going to talk Idaho4. Of course, my name's Jason, and I go by ESTEY'S Crime Maze. That's right. Let me get in front of the microphone with you, everyone. Boy, I can see you already. You look beautiful. Are you ready for an epic live, hopefully, my friends? And this time, when I actually upload it to my YouTube channel, again, ESTEY'S Crime Maze, hopefully you guys and gals, some of you may share it, and hopefully this time I won't have any buffering issue. We'll see. My sister's trying to fix the internet here. So how's everybody feeling? How's everybody doing? Welcome to the live. There's a privacy set. Are we okay, folks? This isn't upside down, is it? I was having troubles with the angle, and now I can't even see the comments properly. Oh, no. Let me just turn the camera, folks, see if this helps. You can't flip the camera. Oh, no. Say his name, Jay Embry. Enjoy your thoughts. So do I just stay this way, folks? Orientation is locked. Rotate device back. Okay, I'm rotating the device back. How's that, folks? We're just not going to have it horizontal for some reason. It doesn't allow me. Thank you. It's all good. I appreciate that. This is good right here? Did I flip it? Oh my God, these technical. I set it up horizontal and it doesn't allow me to do it. Perfect. You say, okay, well, I guess we're going to go vertical. This is actually vertical, right? I don't know why. I'll have to get somebody to say, look at the handsome face. Whoa, thank you. I appreciate it. Even though I have a sty, that's my eyes, but thank you for the beautiful face comment. Really appreciate it. My friends, we're going to talk about the theory that I've been putting out the last several months really hard. When I found out, when you connect the dots of the Idaho4 case, my friends, in my opinion, it was an absolute extraction operation, extraction removal operation by the feds on November 13, 2022, right? In the cover of darkness. We've been spoon-fed the biggest lie. We know the FBI and law enforcement have lied to us over and over again, but the biggest lie, we don't have to go for it, my friends, is that, in my opinion, the students, they weren't unalived. There was no crime scene, my friends. Anybody who opens their eyes, that whole crime scene was staged. Okay, folks? And we'll get into it. There's no doubt about it. But legal reasons, I'll say, my opinion. Again, they didn't treat that crime scene like a health hazard. People have talked about this. So right there, you know an atrocity didn't happen, folks. That's why I get so amped up, man. So Telly to Ellie says, I said Brian was a Fed from day one. Me too. We're on the same page. And he may have been arrested by the local cops and screwed, and a Fed Supreme Court would have to exonerate him. Great comment. Yes, I believe Briankohberger was an actual federal agent, or as my friend Ellie said, and I believe this too, he was an informant. Absolute informant. I mean, he wanted to enroll in law enforcement, folks, right? And again, once you know, and this is a fact, that often the deep state elements, FBI, law enforcement, they will embed intelligent people in high academic positions, right? So they'll sometimes put an actual agenda out, like I study the aerospace companies. They'll use professors at Harvard, and they're spinning that these UFOs are alien, all this nonsense, right? When it's our programs. The point is, a guy like Briankohberger, my friends, they will groom him, potentially, and use him as an intelligent asset. Hello, informant, right? And he may be actually helping the feds with some of their criminal investigations. But I believe, everyone, there's no doubt about it. Briankohberger has agreed to this assignment. He is being used as the perfect distraction, my friends. It's all part of the cover-up. We saw it, right? Oh, Briankohberger, the corporate media are trying to say somehow he did an unaliving. You know, you got Anjanette Levy. I like Anjanette, my friends. She's a great woman overall, I think, and she speaks softly. I like her tone of voice. But she thinks, apparently she thinks Brian's an incel and he's wired differently She focuses on the psychology of Brian being the actual assailant. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's so crazy. And Anjanette, she said some outrageous statements in one of her interviews recently. And then I think even some on her live. You know, I watched some of her live, and I respect her overall. But on this case, she's out to lunch, in my opinion, everyone. And just real quick, when she was a guest, by the way, Anjanette Levy, I'll never forget, she spouted off about 2-3 minutes, I think, ridiculous proclamation pronouncements. And when she stopped, she looked like she was disappointed in herself. She knew, I think, that what she said was untrue about Brian Kohlberger in this whole case. You see, my friends, a lot of these people that come from corporate media, and they actually have their own YouTube channels. When you come from corporate media, there's always this bias, it seems, and a lot of them are they're bought and paid for. I hope Anjanette's not that way. We need to educate these people, my friends, and they need to show some courage. If you're going to have your own YouTube channel, don't go with the FBI CIA narrative, in my opinion, right, everyone? We've been lied to. Ufi says, right, 3 distant brothers or cousins, and he has a bastard child. No? Oh, I didn't know that. Brian Kohlberger has a bastard child, are you referring to? I love these comments, my friends. I really appreciate you engaging. I really do. And when I get doing more lives and get better at it, I will hopefully have a mod or somebody to be able to read your comments. You know, I don't know how to do any of this. I'm doing the best I can. Telly to Ellie. I like that name. I hope I'm saying it right. She says, haha, yes. 10 and the haircut and a lighter color hair. And his parents were where? No media got them on cam. Yeah, right, she says. I guess she's referring to Brian Kohlberger, I think. Yeah, to her point, everyone, Brian Kohlberger, a woman reminded me, she thinks that, you know, he had his hair buzzed because they wanted him to look harder, meaning the feds, everyone, who, you know, the power structure, all this theater, right? Whoever's controlling Brian Kohlberger and largely this theater, they buzzed his hair. You know, you're going to tell me Brian Kohlberger went into a hair salon and on his own, he wanted a different look, you know, for court like that? Are you kidding me? No, my friends, he's a stooge. He's an agreed upon patsy in all this, my friends. And you know, you had Tony Bruschi. He was saying, oh yeah, he looks hard. And the guest said, he looks like a shark. I mean, it's so crazy. Oh my God. The theater. The stronger his energy, the more we see the force manifest on screen. Ophi, you're talking to me, right? Thank you very much. That was very kind of you. Who has the tan like a twinkle Ellie? Are you referring to me? That he looks too good. He looked too good, Ophi says. Just call her Ellie, laugh out loud. Look at all these comments. Love it. Thank you, everyone. Oh, Brian has a tan. Ah, thank you. Well, I don't know how Brian could get a tan in prison. And that's the other outrageous, crazy, laughable thing, right, in this case, everyone? You think Brian Kohlberger is actually going to do any hardcore time in a federal penitentiary with inmates around? No, my friend, soon he won't be doing any time. He's going to go right out the back door, as I said in my interview with Ellie. That's my prediction, everyone. And we'll never see him again, right? We'll never see him again. He will be on another assignment, most likely, my friends. The feds have this all pre-planned, my friends. But corporate media, and again, all these YouTubers that come from corporate media, why aren't they delving into this? How the feds actually operate and what Brian Kohlberger's really been used for, man. And, you know, I remember Anjanette Levy just in a recent interview again. And again, I like her. I respect a lot of her work. But on this case, again, she seems to be out to lunch, in my opinion, everyone. I wish I could educate her. She did read off one of my comments, but she said she was doing, you know, she's a reporter and a former prosecutor, defense attorney. And she said, I guess she was going over one of the state's, you know, evidences or, you know, things that they put forward. And one of them was Anjanette, and she just sounded like she believed it, in my opinion. She said, yeah, they said that Brian was covered head to toe. So how do you do stabbings Anjanette, why would you believe Brian Kohlberger could do a quadruple unaliving when he's covered head to toe? Anybody with reason, logic, common sense knows this is not possible, right, everyone? And the good news is, as I've always said, my friends, and you're going to learn in this live today, the students are most likely alive. There was definitely, in my opinion, everyone, this crime scene was staged. And it allowed, you see, law enforcement, everyone, legally. Actually, I'm going to say this powerful statement in a moment. I'm going to just pause here 1 sec, my friend. I think you'll be interested. I need to watch Ozark, Telly 2 Ellie says. These people are all such liars and paid for it, again, by Telly Ellie 2. I agree. These people are largely paid for liars. Not Anjanette. I'm not saying that she is. I just have some questions about her. Ophi says, hey, man, if someone wanted to pay me to lie on the news, if I see the money, I think I'm signing over to the Illuminati. Laugh out loud. That's hilarious. Am I saying your channel right? Yeah, Ophi. Yes, Ozark was Chef's Kiss. That was a great show, Ozark. We understand you. No worries, Ophi says. So, if you guys and gals have any doubts about what I'm saying about this extraction removal operation actually taking place, if you still, think that this, by the way, the first year and a half, I thought the atrocity happened too. I bought into this huge PSYOP, in my opinion, this huge cover-up nonsense, okay? But once you look through a different lens, everyone, and you look at what the feds actually do, they will do extraction removal operations, particularly, again, if a confidential, let me say it like this, everyone. As I keep saying in my videos, and none of these YouTubers hardly talk about it. The only one that's ever mentioned it, to my knowledge, is Birdie. And of course, Tommy Jude let me be interviewed. And we talked about the extraction removal operation to Tommy's credit. But guess what, everyone? Get ready to have your socks blown off, or your glasses blown off, or your hats. Are you ready for this? Did you know the feds can legally stage a violent event if a confidential informant has been compromised? Can I repeat that to you guys and gals again? Because I think it's so important and it relates to the Idaho4. And you tell me if I'm right, everyone, okay? Ophi says, I love how she reads. Are you referring to someone on the chat here? Let's see. Ophi says, hey, man, if someone wanted to, yeah, I read that comment earlier. Ophi says, I see you, Ellie, yelling at yourself. I'm going to start doing the same. That's funny. Let's get serious now, my friends, okay? Did you know, once again, the feds, the U.S. Marshals, FBI, law enforcement, right? The intelligence community, they can actually stage a violent event if a confidential informant has been compromised. Think about that one, my friends. And doesn't that relate to the Idaho4, right? You're never going to hear this from the journalists that are supposedly telling you the truth, right? On corporate media, you will never hear them say this. And you will never hear hardly any YouTubers, but hopefully after this live and other videos, hopefully more people will actually start to show some courage and tell the real truth, I believe, in this case. That the feds can actually stage a violent event, for example, if a confidential informant has been compromised. And again, my friends, as part of the importance of that and how it relates to the Idaho4, I believe, we all talk about, confidential informants in this case, right? Somebody most likely living at 1122 King Road, leading up to on November 13th, before that and after that, or before that, they were a confidential informant, right, everyone? And if the confidential informant has talked too much, or if some of the students, found out that one of their roommates is a confidential informant, right? Then obviously the confidential informant is probably going to have their cover blown. And I think there's all kinds of reasons why a confidential informant might have their cover blown, right, everyone? It must be very, very difficult to keep that in secret when you're working with law enforcement doing covert operations, say helping with the drug investigations, etc. So I think there's no question in some ways, my friends, that most likely, let's say, a confidential informant was compromised. And so the feds, they knew they had to extract apparently all 4 students, because we never saw them again, my friends. And there was no open casket public ceremony, by the way, which you'll never have, by the way, my friends. If you have a real extraction operation, the feds are rescuing somebody, right, and doing a cover-up, you're not going to have an open public casket ceremony because you can't exhume the bodies. The people are alive, the one individual or group of people in this case. You see, my friends? And some people might say, oh, well, it's just a coincidence. Really? Well, I don't think so, right? Ethan Chapman, apparently, you know, they got to put a little bit of confusion there and try to pull the wool over your eyes. They're trying to say, well, you know, Ethan had a public funeral service or private funeral service. He may have had a private funeral service, but again, my friends, there was no open public casket ceremony for any of the victims, you know? And some people say, well, if they're, you know, they were stabbed so much, of course they're not going to have an open casket. Really? Do you really believe that all 4 students were viciously stabbed to death to the point where there would be no open casket public ceremony? They've got makeup artists, folks. I don't want to sound too morbid, right? But I mean, come on. If you had 4 unalivings, surely one of them you would have most likely a public, an open casket ceremony. But it didn't happen, my friends, because there was no crime. That's my point, in my opinion. If anything, it was a cult. If it happened and Ethan was a target, I do believe that, and Xana second. Well, yeah, I've heard other people, you know, some people even like talk about an extraction operation theory, very few people, but then they'll try to say, well, I think Xana and Ethan were stabbed outside of the house. You know, the assailants got to them, whether it be gangbangers or cartel. No, I would say no, because you got to use reason, logic, common sense, folks. If Ethan and Xana, if they got to them, some perps, some evildoers, there'd be blood everywhere, right, folks? Neighbors would be taking pictures. And that's the other thing. We'll go on this list, everyone. There was this is the huge thing that shows, in my opinion, it was a staged crime scene. It's been a huge PSYOP. There was no unalivings. Because I'm telling you, everyone, I would think you would agree when you think about it. As I've said in my videos, there was no raw crime scene footage of any of those victims, everyone, right? Nothing. We got nothing. No body bags. Think about that, my friends. In almost any high-profile case these days, as I've said, the mainstream media with their money, the resources, the connections, their persuasion, they're going to get most likely leaked crime scene photos or leaked autopsy photos, my friends. There's been nothing. This doesn't happen nowadays. And I'm going to read an amazing comment from somebody, everyone. Think about all those college students around with their cell phones or cameras. They would have been taking in pictures, wouldn't they, everyone, of the bodies being taken out, right? Whether it be on a gurney, with a white sheet over it, perhaps, something, body bags. None of it happened, everyone, because I'm convinced, obviously, there was no crime, my friends, but you're not going to hear this in corporate media. You're going to hear it from ESTEY'S crime mates today. IMO, I could not handle if it was a baby. Dylan's father is Shane. Oh, my God, you guys are amazing. There's so many comments. This is amazing. Dylan's father, Stanley Morrison, prosecuting attorney, is in Coeur d'Alene area. Confirmed. Thank you for that. Yes, my friends, Dylan and Bethany, I'm sure they have a lot of connections possibly with law enforcement and God knows who else in this community. And that's the other thing, everyone. If you think unalivings happened, this is what I'd love to say to Nancy Grace, Ashley Banfield. You know, how about Joshua on court? I think he has a new YouTube channel. He comes from corporate media, former prosecutor, right? Or he's been interviewed on corporate media so much. Now he's got his own YouTube channel called Courtroom Confidential, I think. He doesn't tell you any of this. Well, if the atrocity happened, Joshua, that you seem to be convinced that it did, following just FBI's narrative, then where's the body bags? Where's the leaked? You know, as a prosecutor, Joshua, that you would get leaked crime scene photos, especially in a case like this, and again with college students all over the place. Where's the body bags? You would see some body bags moved out and or pictures. How about leaked autopsy photos? And by the way, my friends, Anjanette Levy brought this up in some way. She said, you know, people were leaving comments. Well, where's the photos of the victims, right? Where's the autopsy photos? You know, and Anjanette was saying how, well, we don't want to see that. You know, we shouldn't be allowed to see that. Well, I kind of agree, Anjanette, but guess what? The point is, you know Anjanette Levy as a lawyer, and living in 2025, and even back in 2022, in the last 15 years, you know you're going to get leaked crime scene footage of some kind of those victims and or autopsy photos. It would happen, everyone. Not to mention college students, again, taking pictures, and none of it happened. But Anjanette Levy doesn't want to tell you that, apparently, that you should be getting those leaked photos if it was a real crime scene, folks, right? Donna Salamander was such a treat getting his life notification. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, Ophi and Donna. Is that from Donna? Yes, Donna again here. You people are sick, Kara says. So here we go, everyone. I bet Kara Willis, hopefully she's a very nice person. Looks like a woman. Kara, I need you to do me a favor. You see, a lot of people, if they just absorb information on corporate media, or if they hop on to some of these YouTube channels, won't even mention the names right now, but the ones that keep telling you that an atrocity happened, okay? This is part of this real psychology. If you go in with a hard, fast belief system, then the information that I'm going to provide to you often, and it's very difficult to change your mind, first of all. Secondly, if you go hard and fast in a belief system, then if someone provides you information, it actually only confirms your belief, at least for a little while. So, Kara, I would ask you, honey, try to look from a different lens. Take a step back, get out of the brainwash and mind control, and you'll realize that, no, I'm not being disgusting. This is not being disrespectful. It hasn't been concrete proven, but again, I think the circumstantial evidence is quite overwhelming that these students are most likely extracted, they're relocated, and they're in the WITSEC program, folks. The acronym stands for Witness Federal Protection Program right in the United States. These federal programs actually exist. Yes, everyone, right? And your taxpayers' dollars, often people, at least in the United States, pays for this. So we deserve the truth on this case, particularly people in the United States, in my opinion. Kara says, you people are sick. Kara, please watch my videos. And please try to stay on this live if you can, because we're going to go through a list, and I'm going to show you, Kara, that there was no real crime scene. And again, the feds do extraction removal operations. If they know that a confidential informant has been compromised, they can actually stage a violent event such as this, even a quadruple unaliving, Kara. And then they use the CIA, which we heard every day on corporate media and still do, trying to convince you that an atrocity happened, but they have no evidence to show you other than a coroner. You know, was it Kathy Babbitt? I always forget her name. Sometimes I say Kathleen. I think it's Kathy Babbitt. She had to make a public statement, right? And she was very nervous. Everybody many people picked apart her interviews somewhat, but you know, and then the coroner's got to make a public statement, in my opinion, to try to convince you that this happened, right? She's just going with the script, my friends, in my opinion. She's corrupt as hell at this point. And by the way, the coroner, it's funny, you know, I kind of respect it. She wears different hats, right? She's actually a nurse. She has that background, really respect that. My sister's a frontline nurse. And this coroner for this case, everyone gets this. She's a defense attorney. And I'm almost convinced many people have talked about it. I believe she defended one of the gangbangers, Farley or somebody else, right? And she is and the coroner. So wears a lot of different hats, but you can't trust her, my friends. And in my opinion, and remember the coroner, she very oddly decided to describe Xana's behavior, like Xana Carnudo that night fighting for her life. Then she tells you that, you know, she's going on about Kaylee has different injuries and, you know, Steve G, the father's trying to convince you of that. All nonsense, in my opinion, my friends, and complete lies. That crime didn't happen, folks. I'm telling you, okay? In my opinion. Ophi reminds me of my history teacher, and he was so passionate. Yes, I'm passionate, all right. You better believe it. Donna says, cold or covered GTSY love. What does that mean, GTSY? Cold or covered? Oh, there's a channel she's referring to, cold or covered. Hey, Rachel Ray, so you guys are communicating with each other on my chat. That's awesome with one another. This is fantastic, folks. You know, as my channel's grown, and I think I had the right settings today, I see way more people on my chat, and I haven't done many lives, partly because as well, as I told you, I haven't had proper internet connection, so when I go to upload these, my face is all blurred, and we don't want that because people won't listen to my live, generally speaking, right? Brent Morrison is her father. Is that for Dylan? Oh yeah, Dylan Morrison. Brent Morrison is her father. Interesting. Thank you for that. Lucy Morningstar. That is not DM's father. Stanley Morrison is not even of the AAME family line. Okay. Well, Lucy, when you say it like that, I'm trusting you're probably right. Telly to Ellie, Bethany and Showalter are cousins. Oh, interesting. Okay. Wow, this case is so crazy and wild, as I'm sure a lot of you know. But again, everyone, it's, in my opinion, it is not tragic. No, it's not. And sure, I can have a little bit of some empathy towards the family members, or a lot of empathy really to some of the parents, because they will never, it's most likely they will never see their young adolescent children, you could say, or kids again, right, everyone? They will never see them again. But they might, you never know. Likely both also Brian cousins, but Brian cousins are cousins with Bethany. Haha. Ophi says, Rachel Ray, you guys spoke sense into me. Right on. WB says, yes, it's confirmed. Cold or covered says Brett Morrison is Dylan's father. Donna Salamander says, Lucy, you're right. Not even related. Cold or covered. Hey, pretty lady, for Telly 2 Ellie, I think they're talking about. Rachel Ray, we love you, Ophi. Right on. Oh, Ophi says, can you say ESTEY'S crime maze for us one more time for those that missed your intro? Ophi, you were so thoughtful. I really appreciate that. Yes, again, I'm ESTEY'S crime maze, folks. And if you enjoy my videos, hopefully you think maybe I have a little bit of value to share with humanity, I hope. I hope you'll subscribe, perhaps. I would appreciate if you consider that. Smash the like button, hit that like button, thumbs up, right? Hit the bell icon to be notified for future videos. It all helps with the algorithms, apparently. And feel free to leave me a comment. That also helps with the algorithms, okay, everyone? Feel free to share, of course. Appreciate it. We're almost at 400 subscribers, by the way. You amazing true crime, Idaho4 true crime junkies, or just true crime junkies, man. We're almost at 400 subs, and this is a new channel. It's been exploding, folks, and it's because of people like you. Thank you. We're at 396 subs before I started this live, so hopefully we'll get to 400. WB Stanley says, confirmation. Telly's 2 Ellie. Hi, babes. GTYS, all. All right. Prove that confirmation that's not Dylan's dad. I'll let you guys argue or have that dispute amongst yourselves or asking questions, okay? Ophi says yes, or BK's tech exchange over years ago. Lucy, DM's grandfather is former chief counsel for the IRS in the Salt Lake City office. Whoa, very, very interesting. Lucy, DM and Stanley are not related. Telly's 2 Ellie, I'm very sick, I know. No, you're not. Lucy Morningstar, Marion K. Morrison is not Stanley's father. Stanley is not DM's father. Okay, well, I can't keep up with these comments. You guys are awesome. Wow. So the point about Dylan Bethany, in my view, everyone, I'm sure hopefully a lot of you may agree or you may agree to disagree. But going back to the extraction removal operation theory, my friends, that I think has a lot of validity to it, as I will keep saying, is if it wasn't an extraction removal, right? If either Brian Kohlberger or I'm sure many of you know that Brian Kohlberger could not and did not do this crime. He has nothing to do with it, most likely. Okay, everyone? Because there was no crime, first of all. But the point is, everyone, if it was an extraction removal operation, that's why you would have 2 roommates alive. If it wasn't, if the feds didn't rescue these students, and again, doing this covert extraction removal operation, why would an assailant, any perp or perps, why would they leave Dylan and Bethany alive? Does that make any sense? Can anybody logically explain that? And why would you have a 911 call delayed by them for 8 hours? Really, it's probably 9 hours. Think about that, everyone. And the people that will say, you know, you've got Jay Embry, Pavarotti. To me, in my opinion, he's I was going to say moron. He's not a moron, but this guy, my friends, you got to be careful, in my opinion, with somebody like that. Okay, he's got a massive channel. This guy keeps telling you an atrocity happened. I totally exposed this guy. I was the first one, probably only one as a creator to expose this guy. Okay. I also did an apology video just because I got one statement wrong somewhat about him. But no, he keeps telling you an atrocity happened and that the Aryan Knights, the Aryan family carried out the hit. Really? He knows, my friends, he's got no evidence. He has absolutely no concrete evidence to show you that any hit was actually carried out. Sure, maybe some of the Aryan family, Aryan Knight members, maybe they had it out for one or more of these students. That's really possible. But my friends, it's a whole other, and I believe it's almost like disinformation. When you put a bold, powerful statement like that out, everyone, that's what disinformation in part is, these red flags, everyone, because there is no evidence to show that it happened, that any hit got carried out. Okay, everyone? There's more evidence, I would argue again, that it was a staged crime scene. There was no crime, my friends. And Embry's got to know that by now, in my opinion, everyone. But he will not tell you those facts, right? Don't be confused, my friends. Kari and turning him into a baby. Telly to Ellie, laugh out loud. Kara, your audio haunts me to this dad with names easily heard. Cara Willis, haha, so funny. I'm not stuck on any idea, I promise. Cara, that's low-key flex. Oh, I like that expression. Lucy, Lucy Morningstar, I bet she's the own baker and dentist too. Oh, Telly to Ellie, Mabbott is the coroner, the lawyer, the nurse, and librarian, I'm sure. Brilliant statement, Telly to Ellie, and factual. Thank you for that. She's got a lot of hats, right? Can you trust the coroner? Do you trust the coroner's statements when she's trying to let on that atrocity happened? Zan is fighting for her life, right? Do you believe that horseshit in 2025, folks? I hope not, because I sure as hell don't. Telly to Ellie, she smirked during that interview. Exactly. It's probably the first time, I hope the only time in her career, that I think this coroner literally sold her soul, my friends, right? She knows there's no evidence for an actual crime scene, folks. You know, I'll never forget when Phoenix was on the Birdie show. She's been on many times, right? One of Birdie's researchers and guests, I believe, right? And Phoenix and Birdie, like all of us that are into the Idaho4 case, we looked at the crime scene. I think we should continue to look at this crime scene before it was destroyed. That's the other huge red flag, everyone, right? Corporate media, apparently Anjanette Levy, to my knowledge, Joshua from Court Confidential, this former prosecutor that's supposed to be all ethical, right? They don't talk about, apparently, why would you destroy the crime scene? They don't seem to be up in arms about that, right? If Brian Kohlberger did this crime, is guilty, or any perp for that matter, why would the state university establishment be so hell-bent on destroying the house? And then the prosecution defense, as I said in my videos, they were so disgusting. They actually know it's so outrageous. They actually laughed that they're going to use a 3D printed dollhouse. They laughed at themselves in court in front of the judge. You talk about disgusting. If these victims were really, if the students were really unalive, you talk about, isn't that shameful behavior, my friends, and actions of defense and prosecution? But it's all theater, my friends. in my opinion. It's all theater. There was no crime scene. That's why they destroyed the house, everyone. Right? Reason, logic, common sense. And again, the feds can legally stage a violent event if a confidential informant has been compromised. Please never forget that, everyone. Don't take it from me. If you don't want, you don't have to take it from me. Look it up yourselves, everyone. That's a fact. That's a fact. Why more people are not talking about is beyond me. But I know many of you are, thankfully. But a lot of creators aren't. Ophi, I can drop this till he catches on, haha. I got ganged on the other night over this miscommunication. Am I missing something from you, Ophi? Telly2Ellie, awkward and weird AF watching her. Telly2Ellie, good to see you. Donna Salamander says good to see you as well. Cara Willis, ESTEY'S, I'm happy to be here, I promise, sir. Thank you, Cara. If I could reach you, I'd give you a big loving embrace for that. You're sweet. IMO, this guy is cute, IMO. Oh, that's from Telly2Ellie. Thank you. You made my day by these beautiful, amazing compliments. Really, seriously. I've been struggling with injuries. It's been difficult. Ophi, Cara wasn't insulting you. Lucy Morningstar, wonder why they think that third floor is the target. And they say EC was sleeping, right? Yet got carved. Miss me with that BS. Exactly, folks. If you think Ethan Chapman got carved up on his lower legs as part of this unaliving by one or more perps, again, in my opinion, you're absolutely being naive, folks. We don't have to buy into this nonsense, okay? It never happened. There's no evidence. There will never be evidence that it happened. No authentic evidence, my friends. And by the way, as I said in my videos, everyone, I think it's worth repeating on my channel. I always predicted if there was a trial, and obviously now, apparently there's not going to be a trial. These cowards, we'll get into that in a moment, how they had to shut this down because they know many of you out there, you amazing sleuths, are bringing a lot of truth and transparency, right? At the very least, saying that Brian Kohlberger could not have done this, right? Not to mention extraction removal operation, that the students are most likely in the witness protection program. More of these messages are coming out, everyone. The truth on this case, I believe, right? This is amazing news. So they had to shut this down. But if there was a trial, I always said, I bet you the coroner, Kathy Mabbitt, she will not testify. There's no way the feds would allow her to testify, I don't believe, everyone. But in the Jeffrey Dahmer case, excuse me, we know they allowed, they had a coroner testify, right? It's a huge cover-up, everyone. Cara says, haha, I love this. Ellie says, definitely captivating. Oh, that was from Donna Salamander. She says, Ellie, definitely captivating. Interesting. Oh, Ophi, you do lives? Ophi says, that was on my second live. I hope to check out your channel, Ophi. And I hope I'm saying your name right, your channel. Thank you. WB, too many lies, insane podcasters, Stanley, Morrison, and Brent. Or not Brent, or Brent. Okay. Cara Willis, off me too, the real baby face in the flesh. Tony Stevenson, all right, he says. Ophi, haha, for real. You've been lied to, Lucy. That's from WB, right? So again, everyone, you've got 2 roommates left alive. What assailant or perps are going to leave them alive when they're in the same house and you're so hell-bent on stabbing, at least 4 students, no matter what connections you may have with 2 roommates that, the other 2 roommates, this being Dylan Morris and Bethany Funk, you wouldn't leave them alive. You're going to trust them to not be coerced by law enforcement to actually bring out the truth? You're going to trust that they can, remain silent? Of course not. Gangbangers, cartel members, whatever the perps are, they would never allow these 2 roommates to be untouched. It makes no sense, folks, right? And most of us know if there was any chance of having all 4 stabbed to death, there'd be at least 2 perps involved, most likely. You got a 6'3", 6'4" Ethan Chapman. And who the hell really is going to go in this and try to accomplish this shit, my friends? There might be some gangbangers that might have tried, but in the end, everyone, again, the feds, they went in there, I believe, and naturally extracted these students. The only thing that makes sense, right? And relocated them, okay? And by the way, again, my friends, totally staged crime scene. Let me get into a list here, everyone, if I may. Actually, first I want to read an amazing comment. I thought you guys are obviously leaving a lot of comments. I appreciate your engagement on here as well. This was a comment that came on one of my, I think, my interviews, perhaps with Ellie. Let me just read this. She brings out some really good information, I thought. And it relates a lot to the extraction removal operation times too, I think. This is from Cheryl. Are you guys ready for this? I hope so. I'm going to just check out the recent comments real quick here. Telly Ellie too. She's likely yes in Vegas now with Bethany. Oh, Vegas. Very nice. Huh. This Bethany and Dylan that we're supposed to believe were so close to these evil perps that are stabbing their 4 friends to death. So crazy. It's all nonsense. They showed Nicole Simpson's bloody crime scene photos. Why not the 4? Excellent. Tony Stevenson says again, they showed Nicole Simpson's bloody crime scene photos. Why not the 4? Exactly, everyone. Reason, logic, common sense. If this crime really happened, if there was a quadruple unaliving, let alone even 2 beautiful students that were unalived or 1, you would see raw crime scene footage. You would have had, at the very least, college students taking photos. It would be all over the internet or leaked, my friends. Wouldn't it? I think so. Reason, logic, common sense. Donna Salamander says, Outcast, 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 where are you? Exactly. Outcast has a really great channel, my friends. And in part, I say that. It is a great channel, a very good channel. But it's a great channel. He actually did a video of me as a baby, everyone. He put a baby face on. It's hilarious. You could check it out at ESTEY'S Crime Maze, folks. I think I had Ellie edit it for me a few days ago. It's up there now. Actually, I think just yesterday or something. Anyway, and then it has my dispute with Jay Embry. It has Jay Embry as a baby face, and we're having an argument because Jay Embry, he had to address me after I exposed him, and I was getting a lot of views. Jay Embry addressed me, but he acted like a coward, in my opinion. He didn't even, it was disgusting. He didn't even say my actual channel's name, folks. At one point, he finally said ESTEY. No, it's ESTEY'S Crime Maze. And you know that, Jay Embry. But you see, my friends, people like him, as friends told me, he doesn't want a lot of his followers to come to my channel because they'll realize, well, wait a second. A lot of them, I think, will realize they've been hoodwinked because Embry keeps saying the atrocity happened with no evidence. And again, the Aryan family, Aryan Knights did it. You know, and I always wondered, is Embry working for somebody, folks? Is he really just solo? Why isn't he doing interviews with other people? And that goes for other YouTubers as well in this case, you know, or some of them. They should be doing interviews, in my opinion. You got to ask, why aren't they, right? They won't dare interview with somebody with different opinions and connecting the dots. And by the way, everyone, these people that are all, you know, I used to support Pazarati as well. I supported some of his information. I followed him for a while, but then I realized, well, wait a second. The whole crime scene is staged. The feds also can legally stage a violent event if a confidential informant has been compromised. And wait a second. Pazarati and these other YouTubers that they keep telling us that an atrocity happened. There's no evidence for it. And they keep saying, well, what? The Aryan family, the Aryan Knights, you know, Farley could have been a lookout, and he thinks that Slocum, I guess, and these other Aryan family, and they named some names that they did this atrocity to hit. Bullshit. There's no evidence for it, everyone. Again, right? And the whole operation out front that house, again, there was an operation that night, my friends. Anybody could see it. You know, you had the dumpster guy just before the so-called unaliving. You had someone sitting in a car for 3 to 4 hours. Right? Pazarati and others show you. You had a guy who apparently, if you believe the audio, the timestamp, did an unmistakable sound of a cocking of a gun, a firearm. Right, everyone? So if that's real, the timestamp is real, that's a real operation out front. Right, everyone? So, but those aren't assailants. That's my point, everyone. There's no evidence those were assailants. Logically, this would be the feds, my friends. And you could give the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, well,
maybe they were assailants. Even if they were assailants, my friends, the feds would have already extracted those students. And you know why I say this to everyone? Why I'm so adamant the students were extracted by the U.S. Marshals? Because there was surveillance all around the house at 1122 King Road leading up to and the night of November 13th, right, everyone? Even Steve G., who I normally don't trust, he's admitted in 2 interviews, everyone, and he probably shouldn't have told you this. He admitted that the feds had surveillance all over or around that house. And that means the neighborhoods. That also means, obviously, they had patrols, my friends, all over the place. Undercover cops, we all see it on video evidence, right? Cops at the band field. So how could perps risk and successfully go in a house and do all these unalivings? It makes no sense. And you leave 2 roommates alive. You got a delayed 911 call. And by the way, everyone, you know, guys like Pazzarotti, they'll say, well, he thinks that the assailants intimidated Bethany and Dylan not to call 911 for 8 or 9 hours. Really? No way. As people told me, no, a person might delay the 911 call for maybe an hour, but if they have any ethics, they're going to call 911 after an hour or 2. Right, everyone? This is natural human behavior, isn't it? I mean, come on. So you don't have to buy into this nonsense. Tony Stevenson, Funk knows Eli. Shoop. Shoop was Kaylee's shield MNGR, he says. Wow. Jimmy Jones, more coming too soon. Telly to Ellie, I'm out of here, y'all. Going to the pool and enjoying Thursday. Nice. But Telly Ellie, Telly to Ellie, why haven't you invited me to the pool, sweetheart? What's going on? I hope you will one day. WB says, no blood whatsoever. Exactly. Repeat, no blood whatsoever. Tony Stevenson, you guys are on fire. No autopsy reports. Exactly. Remember, everyone, at the coroner's office, apparently, this came out, I believe, in the hearings, the reports disappeared. Autopsy reports. And you had a corrupt cop, Tollison, and another corrupt cop, apparently, at the autopsy, my friend. So it only took a few people that were involved originally in this cover-up, right? And you had Dylan and Bethany, I believe, right? So, you know, when people say, oh, it's too elaborate, there's too many people involved. No. It can be done, my friends, and it was done, I believe, right? And then you just use CIA through corporate media nonsense and bought out journalists and, you know, naive people. And it's all my opinions, everyone, but I think the facts back it up. Carl Willis, says, Oofy, check out JB latest and do a baby. Tony Stevenson, don't cross Emma Bailey. WB says, sheath planted, already there. When you're going to say premeditated, but no motive. Exactly. Oofy says, Kara was not insulting you, calling the other PPLS way off doing things are sick. People laugh out loud. Oh, okay. Thank you for that qualification. Telly to Ellie, she did not have BK's DNA, right? At WBI, can guarantee that from a real expert. Wow. See? Thank you for that. Great information. Oofy says, which one? The one at the beach has telling the paparazzi off. Tony Stevenson, what happens if the real perps are revealed? Well, I got news for you, Tony Stevenson. That's why I'm doing this live today. There is no, in my opinion, there was no perps. There's no evidence that there was any perps. There's no evidence that it was a real crime scene. You see, I meant to say earlier, everyone, like what Phoenix said on the Birdie Show, I agree with her once. She said, if you take away the crime scene tape and the badges, remember again at this crime scene, it's like, they were treating it as like, she said in so many words, as if I'm telling you, I'm saying, Tony Stevenson, I'll give you pizza and beer, Tony, if you clean out my shit, you know, my boxes, move out my stuff at the end of the semester. That's how they treat this crime scene at times, folks, right? Because it would have been an absolute biohazard, health hazard, if there was a quadruple unaliving, right? You'd have BLOOD, blood everywhere. And excrement, I don't want to sound too morbid, but seeping out of that in the house, right, everyone? And the red on the foundation of the house, that confused me for about a year and a half. Because I've always said, everyone, the feds had to put something in our eyes, something visual, to make you think that the atrocity did take place. All these regurgitated lies, I believe, everyone. And that red, that's just part of the PSYOP, in my opinion, everyone, right? Many people have said it looks fake, and it's just probably pig's blood or paint, right? It's so easy for a U.S. Marshal or, crime scene investigator in the cover of darkness to do that, everyone. And I think that's exactly what happened. That's not blood from a triple or quadruple unaliving. So much blood is seeping out the foundation of the house. No, my friends, it's all part of the PSYOP. I'm convinced of that now. Again, my opinions, but I think the facts back it up. I call dibs on the miniature third sheath. Yeah, the sheath. What a joke, right? Now they're saying it's not even what is it? It's not even touch DNA. It's skin cells on the button snap of a sheath. Again, my friends, it's all distraction, Larson. It's all part of the convenient narrative, right? Everyone that we were fed. Again, you've got this Brian Kohlberger, who the prosecution had to admit, 2 years later, year and a half later, that at the time he had to admit that basically that BK has no identifiable connection to the family, the victims, the residents, and we know not even really the community very much because he's from Washington State, my friends. They couldn't arrest somebody apparently in Moscow, Idaho. It just wouldn't look good for the university establishment, I don't think, would it, everyone? And then therefore parents probably wouldn't send their kids to school the next day, right, everyone? Certainly if they suspected that there were some evildoers like potentially targeting these students like gangbangers. But again, my friends, no hit could have carried out. There was no hit that got carried out, my friends, right? Because they had surveillance all around the house, that being U.S. Marshals, the feds. They did their job. You'd have to think that the feds are the laziest people in the world, sitting on their ass with video cameras showing who's going in, who's going out of the house. They got a confidential informant most likely working with them, right? So they would know any escalating threats that are bubbling. They would know if gangbangers or, especially if, as many people suspect, what we saw a security detail around, I believe it was Kara Norlington, Xana's stepmother, and her father, right, everyone? Or it was Xana's mom and dad, stepmom and dad. The feds were doing their job, just having security detail on the parents. And if the parents snitched on gangbangers, like a lot of us or strongly suspect, then obviously, my friends, the feds would be surveilling and looking after the kids because they know that part of gangbangers, their motto is, some of the organizations, the cartel members, they will tell you that at times, if they can't get to the snitch, they go after their family members. The U.S. Marshals knew this, everyone. And they were amped up about a drug bust that they were just about to do. Remember, that took place in Washington State about a month or two after this so-called atrocity. So again, my friends, the U.S. Marshals, they had it going on in Moscow, Idaho. Most of them were doing their jobs. It's reason, logic, common sense to infer. And we saw the patrols and cops all over, my friends. Okay? And again, it's not to say there wasn't a threat. But the feds, that's why they do extraction remove operations. Right, everyone? I hope I'm making sense. Rachel Ray says, not even a leaked photo from a neighbor or bodies being removed. Let's repeat that again. Rachel Ray, you're absolutely right. And thank you for bringing up on this live. Rachel Ray says, not even a leaked photo from a neighbor or bodies removed. And that's the whole truth of this case, really, folks. Ophi says, oh, he caught on. Ha, ha, ha. Yes. Randy Furr. Randy's on, I believe this is the same Randy. He's over at Tommy Jude's show often. Once Upon a Crime Time. He's one of the amazing guests there. He has awesome knowledge and information. He's got a great personality. Hi, Randy. And he says, hello, Estes Crime Maze in chat. Thank you, Randy. Means a lot, buddy. I hope maybe you might share this live or something to help my channel get going because, some of these platforms, and I hope I'm not occurring it, it's CENSORSHIP. I'll just leave it at that. And it's frustrating. And I hope it's not happening. Ethan must be a real heavy sleeper, Tony Stevenson says. I think he's being sarcastic. That's right, Tony. Tony, there was no atrocity, in my opinion. There was absolutely no unalivings. And please don't believe Steve G. Okay, again, my opinion. Steve G is a notorious liar. He's collected over $80,000. A notorious liar, in my opinion. He's collected over $80,000 from the public, often U.S. taxpayers' money, on the back of his daughter's death. If you believe his daughter was unalived, which I don't even believe that, but that's still disgusting, isn't it, everyone? That's why a lot of people are angry at Steve G. But what if his daughter's actually alive, everyone? What if this whole thing is a PSYOP? What if Steve G is, I believe, has just signed a non-disclosure with the FBI? He's obviously the main spokesperson, and he's spouting out lies because he knows his daughter's alive, everyone. He would know that there was an extraction removal operation, in my opinion. For example, Christy G, his wife, everyone, this is why I get so amped up. A woman reminded me on Facebook, she said, Jason, because Christy G said she claimed that her daughter photobombed her the day before, remember? The day before the so-called atrocity, right, everyone? So the woman reminded me, she said, Jason, I have two daughters, roughly the same age as Kaylee and Maddie. They have never photobombed me. Why would Kaylee feel the need to give away all or most of her photos and electronics to her mother? Photos. You know why, everyone? As a person reminded me. When Kaylee and Maddie were at the grub truck, remember this, everyone? I'm trying to lower my voice a bit and be calmer here. Remember, many people have played this over and over again, talked about it. This is a significant development, I believe, just before everything went down on November 13th in the cover of darkness, where we no longer see these students anymore. Kaylee said to Maddie, what did you tell Adam, right? And Maddie said, I told Adam everything. So there you go, my friends. So my friend said, actually it was Ellie told me, well, the feds, they couldn't risk giving, they've never given, as I said to Ellie, they never gave Kaylee back her phone. Right, everyone? They never gave back her electronics. As Ellie said, it's because she believes that the whole case, the feds would know their case would be blown apart if, if ever anyone got her phone back, even the parents. They can't afford that. Kaylee never got her phone back, everyone, right? And did she tell Adam, was she worried about Madison telling Adam everything? Because that had to do with them being extracted. Did Adam know there was an extraction removal happening? Because they were all pretty tight at times, right, everyone? And loose lips, right? Could have been because one of the girls was drunk, you talk too much. We may never know the exact details, but and also, I always questioned, right, for the longest time, Kaylee texting at that grub truck. Remember, everyone? She kept texting. She was so focused. She wasn't texting her boyfriend, right, Jack, because she had talked to them as they were on their way to the grub truck, I think, right? He's sitting down, and her and Maddie. So who was she texting? Who was she so adamant on texting? And that was, I believe she started texting shortly after Maddie told Kaylee that, yeah, I told Adam everything. So my point is, everyone, was Kaylee texting a federal agent? Was she texting to get picked up or describing, we're in danger now, potentially here. We're in more danger because Maddie's told Adam apparently everything about what's happening. I think I could be close to the real truth there, my friends. Who knows, huh? I think it makes sense. But maybe you guys have a different theory there. You're on target. Keep going. The naysayers have no clue and can't think. That's from Jay Wick. Thank you, Jay Wick. I appreciate it. By the way, are you all having a great day? That includes Randy, Tony Stevenson, Cara. I know Ellie's having a great day because she's going swimming. Ellie too. Don't want to butcher her name, of course. Telly to Ellie. She's swimming now. She had to go off the live. I don't hold it against you, Ellie too. Ellie, you made a great positive contribution on this live. Randy first says hello to Cara Willis. Colder Covered says at Tony Stevenson, Bill just got his pal Molly to agree to say whatever. Opie says more people are coming. Amy Conway says hello everyone. Awesome. We got at least 38 people on the live right now, folks. And I've been so frustrated. I haven't been able to properly do lives. I haven't figured out the technicalities even today. I wanted to flip the camera around. More importantly, I didn't have it set up to where I had a lot of people coming on to the chat page, let alone anyone, I think. And now, as my channel's exploding too, getting more subscribers, that helps. I'm seeing a lot of you come on the chat page. This is motivates me to keep going, as well as my amazing interviews, I think, with Ellie. You know, I really appreciate you guys and gals. I really do. Hello, everyone, Amy says. Awesome. Nadia Chalu says, ESTEY'S Crime Maze, I am here because of your baby video and your humorous reaction. Thank you, Nadia. Well, I thank Outcast. I think it goes by Outcast404. He originally did that video, and then I had it somewhat edited by Ellie to put up on my YouTube channel. So I think you could thank Outcast404 as well. You could thank Ellie as well for editing it. Outcast, please subscribe to his channel, everybody. If you look him up, Outcast, I believe it's 404, you'll find him. What a great sense of humor, what editing skills that boy has to put me as a baby standing here in the same room, folks, having a dispute with literally live with Jay Embry. But he had Jay Embry's baby face too. It's hilarious. You got to check it out. And I hope you share it, my friends, because again, am I encountering CENSORSHIP at times, like a lot of people? I don't know for sure, but you know why I'm bringing it up. There's a possibility. So I need your help, folks. Please subscribe if you could. Hit the like button, bell icon. Again, feel free to leave me a comment. I really appreciate you all on the chat. This is so amazing. Amy Conway says, no body cams in PA, no body cams at 122 upon arrival. Exactly. So let me read this comment if I may, everyone. We're going to go another 10 or 15 minutes. My back is starting to seize up. I got to be careful. I train, I work out, I box, but I slipped my disc a few weeks ago, but I don't want to bore you with that. I digress. So this is from Cheryl Higgins, 3431. Okay, everyone? And she left a comment on one of my videos, or I think it was an interview. She says, I heard on another channel that when they looked up BK in the state of Idaho with the Department of Justice, that he was nowhere on the website. When my son was in jail, I'm trying to read my writing, sorry everyone. When my son was in jail and eventually sent to a KY state prison, all I had to do was type in my son's name with the KY Department of Justice. He appeared. I believe everything you were saying. In the beginning, when the college kids were supposedly unalived, I wanted to ask any content creator that I watched one particular question, and that was worried that people would ask me. I knew we never seen, she wanted to ask people, why have we not seen any footage of the bodies being removed from that house? And trust me, someone would have recorded that most definitely. And to any other random crime scene, they would have shown news footage as the coroner wheeling the deceased body out or wherever the crime took place. I totally agree. But the bodies would have been covered by a black body bag and possibly a white sheet, or that the body bag would be strapped down to a gurney. There was no way too many college kids running around that house, and everyone knows that at least one of them would have recorded every bit of it. And that's sort of what I said earlier. I totally agree with Cheryl, my friends. Do you guys agree? And these are facts that she's really pointing out, isn't it? And then she says, I love your channel, by the way. Also, I heard another channel say when they did some kind of search, like running a credit card and report or something like that, get this shit. Now, Kaylee and Maddie showed up living in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, as of 2024. Now they reported that college students were unalived in 2022. Ethan showed up as residing in Pennsylvania as of 2024. Isn't this interesting? She says, IDK, how the FBI and Bill Thompson are going to be able to cover up the fact that millions of people will be going to whatever prison they report on mainstream media that BK will serve out his sentence at, but I feel like nobody will be able to locate BK in any prison. If it's true, everyone should be able to look up his profile with the Idaho Department of Justice, and his picture would be right to the side of all his dates wherever he entered the prison, and would show if he was eligible for parole. I can't flip and wait to check for myself after he is done later this month, so I can see for myself. I appreciate you are doing what you are doing, and I'm glad that that I cleared not only doing this was mainly, or she apologizes that this was a long comment, but I had so much to say. She says, I have so much more I want to say, and I'll wait a few days. Awesome. Or I said awesome. Anyway, so that was her comment, everyone, from Cheryl Higgins 3431. And if you disagree with her, please tell me why you would disagree with those statements, because I think she's right on the money. No body bags, etc. And I know you guys, some of you said it in here too. Rachel Ray asked, why were the cops there before the 911 call even happened? Thank you, Rachel Ray, for the reminder. Exactly. Let's repeat that. Rachel Ray says, why were the cops there before the 911 call even happened? And we know, by the way, Rachel Ray's right. Great question. I don't know. Other than, again, it's a huge cover-up, I believe. There was no crime scene. There was no crime. And what was I going to say? Oh, many of us, and Rachel Ray, I'm sure you would, I would think you would agree, that people have been saying over and over again, except for corporate media journalists, they don't admit it, the 911 call was absolutely coerced. Are some of these mainstream journalists, are they even playing? Have they even bothered to play the 911 call? I mean, if they haven't, I hope you guys expose corporate media and other creators. I mean, this is ridiculous if they haven't played that 911 call. They probably hardly have. I mean, it's outrageous. And again, my friends, you got Joshua from, I believe, his channels. I mean, check out his channel if you want, but Court Confidential or something. This guy's all about Brian Kohlberger being guilty. Is he really that naive? He's not a stupid man, I wouldn't think. He's a prosecutor. Why haven't, I mean, they're not telling you the truth of this case, in my opinion, right, everyone? They're not telling you half of what you guys have been talking about. Brian Kohlberger couldn't have done it. And hello, Joshua, there was no atrocity, dude. You just got to look at the stage crime scene, in my opinion. The students are alive. They're protected under your WITSEC program that you have in the United States, Joshua and Anjanette Levy. And I got to include my buddy Joel. I consider him sort of a buddy, though. I've left comments for him. He knows who I am, on Surviving the Survivor, another huge YouTube channel. And yet Joel, but he apparently believes all in that Brian Kohlberger's guilty too. And he has guests on that just focus on this psychology. Like, there's no proof that Brian did it other than the, again, skin cells on a knife sheath, if you believe it wasn't planted. And Joel, he's not asking the hard questions usually on the Idaho4. And he certainly is not telling you that, wait a second, there's no evidence that a crime really even happened. There's no body bags. There's no pretrial evidence even of the bodies, right, folks? There's no leaked, again, raw crime scene photos. And I would say, Joel, dude, you know, I try to leave you some comments, but Joel, come on, dude, don't sell out, man, if that's what you're doing. Wake up to the real truth and reality that a lot of us know of this case. Joel, you're not doing this case, sir. And this is a very, very important case, I would tell Joel and all these guys and gals. They should realize we shouldn't be following, because again, the FBI, look at this case, everyone. Bertie's talked about a few others. Look at how the FBI illegally obtained this DNA. And Brian Kohlberger didn't even do the crime. And now, so sometimes the deep state elements of the FBI, they'll obtain information illegally, and then through court proceedings, is this what we're seeing in this case, everyone? Through court proceedings, they'll try to make it legal, right? We got to be careful, everyone, because then, God forbid, if they can, you know, obtain DNA illegally, setting up ultimately an innocent person, right, planting their DNA or obtaining it, and saying that they did this crime, like a whistleblower, for example, right? Because people often say, well, wait a second, Jason, why would they do this? Why would they do this? Well, I'm talking about real evildoers, again, if you were a whistleblower, You know what I'm saying? So that's just one important aspect, I think, of this case. Rachel Ray says, yeah, one more time. Rachel Ray says, why were the cops there before the 911 call even happened? And who was the cop that discovered the sheath? What a joke. He's a little midget. What's his name, guys and gals? Brett Payne, right? It was Brett Payne, wasn't it? And the first search, people are, the cops are supposedly looking in these bloody rooms. There was no even knife sheath reported as seen. And then it was Brett Payne was on the second search. He claims that a knife sheath was found, and then there were discrepancies. First, it was under the Madison's leg, I believe. Then it was beside her body, beside the leg or something, right? And then they magically find this skin cells on a button snap. Then they arrest eventually this. Again, everyone, it's all hugely, it's just a big PSYOP, the Idaho4. It's fascinating, but it's a PSYOP, my friends. And this was, again, an extraction removal operation. We've seen the cover up. Yeah, my opinions, but the facts back it up. And by the way, everyone, just a sec. Amy Conway says, IMO, ESTEY would be the greatest lunch you ever went, IMO, ESTEY would be the greatest LUCH. What does that mean? Sorry, you ever went to would be interesting. What are you trying to say there, Amy? And I appreciate that compliment. I could tell it's meaning as a compliment. Oh, are you saying would be the greatest guest? Is that what you meant? And I appreciate that. By the way, everyone, speaking of being a guest, those of you that may find me hopefully interesting or my content and support me in this Idaho4 case, and I appreciate your passion as well, everyone, would you please perhaps reach out to somebody like Birdie, this guy with a massive platform these days. He's on TikTok, as you may know, and YouTube. And any other big YouTuber, for example, everyone. I've reached out to Birdie, and he finally, actually, I was delighted. I was so pumped up. He actually emailed me back finally, and he accepted because I asked, could I be on your show as a main guest or even one of your guests, right? And Birdie finally said yes. And I could show you the emails one day, my friends. And he said, though, we just have to do it before July. I said, okay, fine, great. This was weeks ago. So I waited a week or two. I didn't hear anything from him. Sent him a bunch of emails saying, what's going on? He finally emailed me back, says, don't take it personal, Jason. I could show you the email one day, everyone. And he said something to the effect of, I'm doing things differently now, or I'm going to keep the same guests, but I'm doing things, it was a very tight, concise email. But I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Birdie, you got this huge platform. I've done a lot of research like many of you. Not that I'm always perfect. Again, I for the first year and a half, I thought there was an atrocity. Birdie must know, too, everyone, that I've pumped him up so much at times in my videos, and rightly so. I've given him a lot of credit. Why would you bail on me for an interview, Birdie? Why? It just gets me, everyone, because... And Birdie and I, by the way, we finally actually got to talk. I got to talk to him and him back. We had a little bit of banter because he came on Tommy Jude's show again, Once Upon a Crime Time, I think about a week ago. And I actually came on the show briefly as one of the guests, and I asked him a question or made a statement. He actually half laughed. So Birdie, come on, dude. If you ever hear this live or some of you reach out for him for me, Birdie, we could do an epic live, surely to God. And even if there's a bit of controversy, some people that may not agree with me or maybe they think I'm abrasive or something. I get a lot of supporters too that appreciate what I'm saying. And I think my charisma. And Birdie, you got charisma too, dude. We can have two masculine men going at it, bouncing our ideas off one another, right? And we can go anywhere you want, Birdie. We can focus on Brian Kohlberger and the hearings, of course, wherever you want to go. But give me an opportunity, would you, Birdie? You've interviewed devil's advocates a bunch of times, which is great. Why not me and ESTEY'S Crime Maze? Anyway, I just put that out there to Birdie. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you didn't mind me saying that. WB says, Gonzalez, not Goncalves, is another big actor. Yes, WB, Steve Gonzalez. He is. He's an actor. Totally, WB. I agree with you. WB, are you a creator? Are you putting out any videos? That was a great comment. If you're not putting out videos, that's okay, dude. I totally agree. Again, my friends, it's all for this emotionally high-charged narrative. I believe Steve's job is partly to convince you an atrocity happened, and he's making a lot of money. The guy's remodeling his house, right? God knows how many cars he has, right? His beautiful daughter, Kaylee, but probably more from her hard work, was able to afford a nice vehicle before she disappeared. But back to Steve G, my friends. The guy has a house. He probably has 2 houses for all we know. He's had opportunities to get married, have a beautiful wife and kids. And yet he's making all this money, I believe, trying to convince you that the atrocity happened. And still, why would you, ask money from the public on the back of your daughter's death? I mean, I could maybe understand maybe 5 or 10,000, but just stop. Steve G, in my opinion, you should shut your mouth. Enough is enough. A lot of us don't believe your nonsense. We can see through your PSYOP, in my opinion. But, Steve G, he's got some good qualities. I'm not saying he doesn't. He probably had a very good relationship with Kaylee. Apparently, he doesn't have a good relationship with one of his other daughters, if the rumor is correct that one of his daughters doesn't want anything to do with his father. But that's none of my business, so I don't go into that. Jay Wick says, summer in Puerto Rico. Ducour lives in PR now. Interesting. So Jack Ducour, you're referring to, lives in PR now? Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that either, Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, beautiful Xander Canuto as well, and the handsome Ethan Chapman. I wouldn't doubt that some of them are in places like Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico, as I've said in my videos, and Jay Wick seems to know this, the WITSEC program that's in the United States, folks, they have a WITSEC program in places like Puerto Rico. Think about that, okay? And guess what, everyone? Again, Joshua from this Court Confidential, his YouTube channel, whatever it's named. You got the lovely Anjanette Levy, this reporter now, or former defense attorney, I believe she is, now with her own YouTube channel covering the Idaho4. Whether it be Josh from Surviving the Survivor, or sorry, Joel. I like Joel. I keep messing up his name today. But all these people, they don't even tell you or show you the clip. And even Jay Embry on YouTube with his huge YouTube platform. He's done hundreds of videos seemingly trying to convince you that the atrocity happened and it was done by the Aryan Knights, Aryan family. All this horseshit, in my opinion. He won't even show the clip from his own friend Bubbly Waters, where Bubbly caught Christy G in a recent interview, everyone. I'm sure a lot of you know what I'm about to say, don't you? Those of you that are very familiar with this case. Christy G blurted out, obviously by mistake, as Bubbly Waters thinks, and I do too, she blurted out that Maddie just bought a house. She didn't quite finish the whole word house, but we all know there's only one word she could have meant. That she said Maddie just bought a house, as in house. Yes. And then later, she knew she screwed up, I think, everyone. And she actually left the interview, and it was just Steve G there with this typical Fed look, straight face, right? No emotions. The only emotion that Steve G portrays, and I think this is part of the narrative, everyone, he portrays self-righteous anger, right? And him and his wife, they're supposed to act like they're in despair. Half the time, they don't even do it properly. Bad actors, in my opinion. But I believe that's part of their assignment, their job right now, everyone. Okay, I think it's obvious, plain as day. I hate to say it, but it's true. Okay, but I'm very happy that these students are alive, folks. There was no crime, right? There's no evidence that this atrocity took place. And again, everyone, the evidence, the real legality shows you the feds can actually stage a violent event if a confidential informant has been compromised. Bottom line, think about that. Leash 23 says, wow, 31 watching, I'm late. It's now 39, Leash, but thank you. Yes, it's great response. I'm very happy. And if we do more lives, I'm sure we'll get even more people, but I appreciate each and every one of you today. Great comments, great questions. A lot of you have been interacting with one another. This is awesome. Rachel Ray says, Outcast is a bomb. Does that mean good? I hope so. Outcast is great, folks. Check him out. He did the baby video, as some of you said you were laughing about. You brought it up in the chat here. And that was with Jay Embry and I as baby faces. And Outcast, you can hear him in the background. He's got his AI apparently baby face, you know, as the host of the channel, and he's saying, I can't, like he can't deal with it. Like it was so like outrageous, right? He's doing good, Ophi says, I think referring to Outcast. Lucy Morningstar, I'm confused. ESTEY'S crime maze, have you not seen Steve G's brother, Chad, in Nazi garb? Or sorry, Nazi, oh, sorry. Lucy Morningstar says, I'm confused. ESTEY'S crime maze, have you not seen Steve G brother clad in Nazi garb? No, I have not, Lucy Morningstar. If you ever find a picture, please send it to me if you could. I don't know if I should give out my Gmail right now. If you need another communication with me, Lucy, you could check me on a messenger and Facebook. I'd love to see that, the photo, okay? Please. And if you need my email, I'll give it to you later. WB, car is going in reverse on a high rate of speed. Jimmy Jones, ESTEY'S crime maze, 397 subs. Yes, but with your help today, everyone, I'll be really surprised if I don't reach the magic number of 400 subs when this live is over, or hopefully when I share it, and hopefully my face this time, and we can get the internet, hopefully when YouTube embeds this video, hopefully the internet therefore is strong enough this time where I am that it will be uploaded without the buffering, but we'll see, we'll see. Yeah, I can't wait to reach 400 and then eventually 500. But it's all about getting the truth and transparency to more people, amazing people like you folks, right? And having you guys and gals, hopefully some of you at least sharing this video and subscribing. It's exciting. Nadia Chilio says, give her host a like. So she's referring to me. Thank you, Nadia. Give her host a like. Peeps, he deserves it for saying his truth. 35 and 11, like, come on, we can do better. Oh, that's nice, Nadia. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thumbs up again. Leash 23 says, what were the people involved with to get extracted? That's one of the $1 million questions, I believe. Leash 23, we can all sort of guess in this case, right? The $1 million question, or $500 million question. What were the people involved with to get extracted? Well, we can only speculate, folks. Leash 23, I think that, as many people have talked about, that one or more of those roommates, and even maybe one of the two survivors, they weren't even survivors. There was no crime scene, folks, in my opinion. Again, there was no crime. Okay? But I think that one or more of those students at 1122 King Road were likely working, helping the feds, working undercover. Who knows? They may have been infiltrated with gangbangers or cartel organizations, but as part of the undercover work, I don't know, but they were working with the feds in some capacity, most likely, right? This is often what confidential informants will do, or sometimes, right? And their cover was blown. Their cover was blown. And remember, everyone, again, none of these journalists talk about this. The feds would have had to shield they wanted to shield their drug investigations, I believe, that was going on. They had at least two parallel major drug investigations going on, right? And we saw the result, everyone. If they staged this crime scene, which I believe we can all see now that they did, right? There was no unalivings. Well, they were successful, everyone. They put it through CIA to try to convince the general public that it happened. They continued with their drug investigations, therefore. They tried to convince certain organizations, I guess, that the hit actually got carried out, right? It was all a psyop and cover-up, everyone. So they could continue, again, shielding their drug investigations, and they were all amped up, and they eventually did that major drug bust in Washington State, everyone, okay? And like Bertie said, everyone, when you're trying to get high cartel members, the big fish, this isn't just a year or 2 year operation often, everyone. It can be 3 to 5 years. And that's the window that I believe we probably saw. And Bertie sort of alluded to it too, right? Between probably 2020, 2021, 2022, and up to the present. Absolutely, everyone. And again, just like the pre-planted narrative with Brian Kohlberger, my friends, and using him, I believe, as an actor, this doesn't just happen overnight, right, everyone? What year did Brian Kohlberger enroll in law enforcement? It's probably at least, what, 3-5 years ago? you know? And they had an eye on this guy, probably communicating with him most likely as soon as he went to Washington State, maybe even before that, as a teenager. Okay? That's what I think. I hope that tries to answer your question, Lease23. I hope I was able to answer it somewhat, but it's a great question that we may never get the exact answers to, but that's okay. Kara says, everyone sub to ESTEY'S Crime Maze. Kara Willis, thank you, Kara. You're amazing. Kara, if you happen to be a creator, Kara, I don't know if you have a channel like doing videos. If you do, I'll be happy to check out your channel. If you don't, I still appreciate it. We should all appreciate people like yourself that are leaving comments, and thank you for supporting ESTEY'S Crime Maze. Really appreciate that. I wish they had likes here that I could give likes. Lucy Morningstar, I'll pay Dahmer too. Or no, Pav Dahmer thou? I'm not sure what you mean there. Smash that bell, Ophi says. Yes, please smash the bell. Thank you, Ophi, as well. Jimmy Jones, ESTEY, I like your passion. My God, these are amazing comments. Thank you, everyone. And yet, you know, when I exposed the likes of Pazzarotti, you know, I try to do it respectful but firm and with passion. People were all over me. People smashed me, all of his, a lot of his community, I guess, you know, when it came up on their feed. And part of the reason it is, in my opinion, everyone, some psychologists will at least tell you this, that if you go hard and fast on a belief system, it's very hard to change your mind. So people, and again, it's okay if you want to support people like Pazzarotti or Jay Emery, that's okay. But just understand it's hard, and I understand it. It's hard for them to change their mind. I'm not trying to change their mind necessarily. And so when I put out information, even showing discrepancies that, again, and showing you the facts that I believe Embry has no evidence to support this atrocity took place, right? Or the Aryan family, Aryanites carrying off this so-called atrocity. He has no evidence for it. But he keeps repeating hundreds of videos, right? So when I bring that out as factual, that he has no evidence, his community gets all over me because they're hard and fast, I believe, in this belief system. So that means any information that you do put out to someone who goes hard and fast in belief system often, they'll just confirm it for their own, you know, biased sort of beliefs, if you know what I mean, right? Again, it's hard to change their mind. That's the point. And I get it. So it's all good. Ophi says he's blowing up on TikTok. Thank you. Yeah, I sometimes forget about my TikTok. I do a lot of animal videos, but I've done political videos on TikTok. I've done some Idaho4 on TikTok. Hopefully we'll do more. I want to figure out TikTok Studio like Birdie was able to do. And therefore, you know, I'll be able to show clips going live properly on TikTok with a lot of you out there that are interested. Eventually we'll get to that. But let's love the YouTube platform as well. In the meantime, Ophi says, you want, and by the way, I almost have I think about 2,500 subs on TikTok. But my goal is to get the same and more here on YouTube. And I know it doesn't happen overnight, right? Ophi says, you want a Bugatti, a hot body? You better work on Bish. You want a Bugatti? A hot body? Ophi, yes, I would love a Bugatti car, dude. You got something in mind? How do I get a Bugatti? Are you offering, or do you know a wealthy person that supports me that wants to do that? That'd be awesome. I'll give my nieces a drive in a Bugatti, not to mention my loving sister and mom. Oh my God, it would make their day, their life, I think. Jack Bauer says, where can I buy some of the shit this guy's smoking? I love it, Jack. Or do you think I'm smoking? Are you basing it on my energy level, my tone of voice, how fast I'm speaking, that I'm speaking a little bit fast? Or are you basing it on that I'm in a great mood because of all of you? Or Jack, are you saying, where can I buy the shit this guy's smoking? Are you not agreeing with the theory that I put out, this extraction removal operation taking place November 13, 2022? Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xander Canoodle, and Ethan Chapman. Let me know, Jack. No, I didn't even smoke up before this live, honest to God. Jay Wick says, WITSEC locations outside of 50 states, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, and 2 other countries, not as popular. Thank you, Jay Wick. If I could screenshot right now, I would take a screenshot of that comment, Jay Wick. So when I review your comments, that's one of them that I hope to at least write down. If not, I'll take a screenshot, and I'll use that for some of my videos. Really appreciate that, Jay Wick. Yeah, and we have apparently we also have a WITSEC program, which stands again for Witness Federal Security Program, there in the United States, to protect witnesses. We have it in Labrador here in Canada. Wow, WITSEC locations outside of 50 states, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, and 2 other countries not as popular. Lease 23 says, I'm totally with no blood in the NO autopsy. Exactly, folks. Again, Joshua from Confidential Courtroom, something or other's channel, excuse me, this former prosecutor, I usually like the guy, but he doesn't tell you any of this. All the people, all these big-time journalists and some of the big-time YouTube creators, even Harsh Reality, I think. How often does Harsh go over the fact that, wait a second, if there was an atrocity, well, how can there be when nobody's reporting or seeing blood? Even the 911 coerced call, right, everyone? As people have commented, wait a second, even when they're reporting Xana's body splayed out, did you hear anyone say, oh my God, there's blood everywhere? You would hear that naturally on a 911 call as part of the behavior of these people, wouldn't you, everyone? Of course you would, right? Not to mention the places, I mean, it'd be again, total health hazard. It would stink. So this would be mentioned on the call. Come on, not to mention photos. And the autopsy, as Leash says, there was no autopsy leaked photos. I mean, come on. It didn't happen, everyone. I think it, again, in my opinion, this all points towards it didn't happen. It's a complete psyop, and it's fascinating. But bro, there is a dispensary in every corner, Ophi says. I love it. Ophi, ha ha ha. Her BLM, Bald Lives Matter. Randy, laugh out loud to Jack Bauer's comment. Randy, you better not be making fun of me, dude, or I'm going to have to challenge you like I did Jay Embry to a boxing match, dude. You better train hard. Now, if you're making fun of me a little bit, Randy, that's okay, dude. That's okay. And Randy, by the way, Randy, I know you've been, this is, I'm pretty sure the same, yeah, this is the same Randy. I see your profile photo, Randy. Thank you, Randy Fur. I know you've been a guest numerous times on Once Upon a Crime Time, the amazing channel by Tommy Jude. And thankfully, he promoted my channel. That sort of got this channel rolling about a month ago or so. And as you know, Randy, he kindly wanted me to be a main guest to talk about the extraction operation theory, which we did. Hopefully we knocked it out of the park. There's obviously a few things I wish I could have gone over better or added more information. But Randy, do you think I should be asking to bring guests eventually on my YouTube Live at ESTEY'S Crime Maze? And if so, if you have anybody in mind, Randy, by all means, let me know. Maybe one day we get Birdie on here, but I want to be on Birdie's show preferably first for some reason. But again, he bailed on me. And you got to wonder why, my friends. I really like Birdie. I think largely, again, unlike some of these YouTube creators, some of them at least, Birdie seems to be a man largely of intellectual integrity and intellectual honesty. So that's why I hope that he comes to his senses after bailing on me, and that people like you might reach out to him, motivate him to not be afraid. If Birdie, are you afraid? You know, because a lot of people, I understand everyone to a certain degree, but as Ellie reminded me, they want to play it safe. They want to play it safe, you know. But to Birdie's credit, he brought up this extraction removal operation as a real, I think, viable theory. He did a whole presentation on it. But now he gets into other speculations with his other guests, and that's fine and dandy too. But I think, my friends, we need to focus on, as Birdie even did in his presentations too, it was a staged crime scene. It had to be, right, everyone? It sure looks like it. And the boxes, Birdie showed you too, everyone. It says North American Relocation Services on the boxes. Isn't that interesting, my friends? And some of you might say right away, well, Jason, ESTEY'S Crime Maze, so what? They were moving out the boxes. They hired a moving company, right? And yeah, it's very odd. The U.S. Marshals in uniform are moving out the victim's stuff. When do you see that happen? And ununiformed officers, as Birdie pointed out. But here's the thing, my friends. And I talked about this in my videos. North American Relocations, and I talked about this in interviews with Ellie, by the way. If you look up North American Relocation Services, the parent company, Birdie found out, is SIRVA, S-I-R-V-A. And why is that important, everyone? Because they work with the feds. They got a Schedule 48, which allows them, they move valuable law enforcement assets like confidential informants, like government officials, right? That may have like an escalating threat. And so the feds will extract them. These are real federal programs, folks. This is when they're moving boxes out. You've got a North American Relocation Services. You got the parent company server that works with this was a federal operation. It shows you from day one, doesn't it, everyone? Isn't it? I think so, right? And then one of the boxes Bertie shows you, probably got help from one of his researchers again. It says Beth on it. Bertie shows you Beth for Bethany. Isn't that odd? I mean, it's just wild. And again, they're not survivors. There was no crime scene to begin with, in my opinion. Rachel Ray says, no leaked photos from neighbors of bodies being removed from the house. Exactly, Rachel Ray. I hope I could screenshot your comment too, in those exact wordings. And I hope other people will repeat it. Rachel Ray says, no leaked photos from the neighbors of bodies being removed from the house. No leaked photos from neighbors of bodies being removed from the house. Exactly. Jack Bauer says, don't sell anything this good. Interesting. Thank you, Jack. Amy says, no body cam upon arrival 1122. No protocol actually illegal. Exactly, Amy. Exactly. And to your point, and we didn't even hear emergency vehicles, right? That was reported that we didn't hear that. And by the way here, my friends, real quick, miscellaneous points. I've described this on my video. My friend Pamela gave me help with this. A knife sheath left behind, question mark. People, but highly unlikely, or possible, but highly unlikely, would be on a belt, you know, not holding the hand free, question mark, or having to put down, right? How about 8 hours, again, before the 911 call, right, which most of us know, which sounded fake or false, she puts, right? Not released for 2 years. 8 hours needed to get people away, and 8 hours needed to get in touch with people, to get a story together. Exactly. Which is, I think, was done in a hurry. And as Maddie told Adam, everything. That's why so many odd things, which some of they can't alter very well, but some of them did alter later. Exactly. I agree with largely with that comment. By the way, this was from Pamela again, everyone, and I don't know if others have said this or wrote it down. Emergency ambulance teams not let in. Law enforcement pronounced the victims dead? Question mark. Yeah, somebody said in the comments earlier, law enforcement pronounced the victims dead first? Are you kidding me? Using the same officers, no coroner till later, who was Kathy Mabbitt. She arrived, what, at least 5 hours, 8 hours later or something? Crazy. And the lawyer defended people like Farley, right? How about, and this is what I love, my friends. Again, I wish Joel, my buddy from Surviving the Survivor, I wish he would tell you the truth and tell you this information, or Joshua from his True Crime Confidential, I think, YouTube channel, or how about Anjanette Levy, these literally professionals. Joel from Surviving the Survivor, by the way, my friends, he comes from corporate media as well, right? I think he said in so many words he was fed up with corporate media, working for Fox and other big mainstream media, so he started his own YouTube channel. But he won't tell you this information. This is the truth. How about, and this is so important, bloody mattress items removed from the house in like a Beverly Hills Billy truck, question mark. Really? Not covered over? So blood to show, really? Is that so we can see evidence of the crime? Actually, hey, couldn't make it more obvious that it was not a real crime, as normally they would have been covered up. Absolutely. And she put disrespectful to the victims. Exactly. That's what's disrespectful to the so-called victims. Not me saying that they're actually alive. No, that's not disrespectful, because I think that's the truth. And I think more people are onto that and agree. Ann Taylor is going to defend Skylar Mead, the Erie Knight who sprang out of prison by another, and then they killed 2 people for cars. Yes, exactly. And everyone, do you want to hear me go over a small list? We're at 1 hour and 39 minutes. We've got 32 people left on the live. Cara Willis says, I need a little Esty in my life. Awesome. And Mark says the opposite. Why am I here? You're here for this reason. Are you ready for this, Mark? Here we go. The Idaho4 list. This is just some of the discrepancies. Success. No motive. Obviously, that would apply to Brian Kohlberger. We all know no motive. No confession, right? Never got any videotape evidence of his interrogation. They shut it all down. They're not going to trial now, right? Ridiculous. No signs of forced entry or exit. No post-crime scene DNA trail left behind. No biological residence in Brian Kohlberger's car. Even the prosecution had to mention that, even though you could say it was several months later before they arrested Brian Kohlberger. So, but even still, you'd think they'd find some DNA if he was responsible, right? No uncensored photos. That's what I keep saying, right? No raw crime scene footage, no uncensored photos, no forensic leaks, no raw witness testimony, no pretrial autopsy confirmation, no material crime scene, no pretrial evidence of bodies. Hello. No verifiable removal of bodies. Hello. Again, Joel at Surviving the Survivor, Joshua, who's normally a cool guy like Joel, and they do some good analysis on other cases. They don't tell you no verifiable removal of the bodies. They don't even ask the question. They don't bring it up to their other guests that it's actually a fact. No verifiable removal of the bodies, right? Where's the pretrial evidence of the bodies? There's none. No surveillance footage continuity. And yet we know, as Steve G admitted in 2 interviews, everyone, the feds had surveillance. And he even said that they have video evidence of who was going in and who was going out of that house. So how could perps and why would perps go into the house to do atrocities when the feds have surveillance? Not only video surveillance, they had patrols all over. They knew about escalating threats, potentially, these students, my friends. This is the feds' job, man. Come on. So, Mark, that's why you're here, hopefully. A crime without scene, exactly. Leash 3 says, I think it was that mom that said there was helicopters on the field that night. Nobody talks about that. Thank you, Leash 23. I didn't know that. Helicopters, wow. More surveillance it would have been by the feds, right? Jay Wick says, Watts case, another PSYOP. Exactly. The Chris Watts case was definitely a PSYOP too. Fry going to clean up. And he's got a funny picture. Randy First says, it's rust. Nadia, make believe. By the way, Randy, you never told me, dude, did you enjoy, for the most part, my video as a guest with your buddy Tommy Jude or not on the extraction theory? I certainly enjoy you when you're a guest and a lot of your comments and your sense of humor. Did you not like my my appearing as a main guest with your buddy Tommy Jude and what we talked about? You never told me. Anyway, no statecraft death records. No Social Security death index, no unaliving registries as of 2023 and late 2024 for any of the 4 victims. But they weren't victims, my friends. They're alive, in my opinion. No postmortem debt transfer filings, no public tax bereavement status. And on we can go, my friends. And again, no mention of blood on the 911 call. You have all this. How long was the 911 call, by the way, everyone, right? It was at least 5 to 10 minutes, I would think. So you would think they would, for sure, they're going to talk about blood. Like they're so scared that you hear it in their voice, which most people think it's fake. It's obviously they're acting. It's probably coerced. Why wouldn't you include blood? The reason is, my friends, they're not looking at blood. There is no blood. And God knows, they probably didn't even do their proper script when the cops were probably standing right beside him during the 911 call, right, everyone? So, Amy Conway, Randy agreed, blood and air would turn a different color. Interesting. Love God says, blessings, everyone from Arkansas. Please hear me out right now. Me and my daughter need help. I ran out of gas, HRS ago, and I called police and road assistance. No help. I have no family left. God, help. Oh, my God. That's from Love God, everyone. If her message or this person's message resonates with you, please communicate with them perhaps and see if you can help. Love God says, family, I've done everything I can do and no one will help us. All we need is like $12 to make it home. I'm praying for a miracle right now. Love God. I hope you can get that help. I have no ability right now. It's a long story. But Nadia says, Tony Stevenson with the mover, so bizarre. I might be able to help you in the future, love God, but I can't at the moment. She mentions a PayPal. Please read my comments above, family. Gangbanger says January Figura. Gangbangers, ooh, talking about Trump, they said. Interesting. So there you go. Ophi says ESTEY'S Crime Maze on YouTube. Yes, exactly. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining me today, by the way, on YouTube at ESTEY'S Crime Maze. I really appreciate it. This was a live. We've been talking, I've been rambling for an hour and 45 minutes with you, my friends. But I hope I was able to put out some important information. Certainly a lot of you also put out very valuable information. I'm going to screenshot some of your comments, hopefully write them down. My back is seizing up, so I got to go, everyone. Thank you. And again, I can only hope that you might subscribe, those of you that haven't, people new to my channel. I hope you might share this video, folks. Again, hit that like button, thumbs up, hit the bell icon, be notified for future videos. We're going to cover the Idaho4 again and other true crime cases, hopefully, too, my friends, okay? I might even cover the Barry Suzanne Morphew case. That's a sad case in some ways, for sure. But, and yeah, that's about it. Oh, and feel free to leave a comment, as you know, that helps with the algorithms apparently as well. Thank you, everyone. Have an amazing, beautiful morning, afternoon, and or evening, wherever you are. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate your passion for this case. A lot of you out there and people new to the case, I hope you'll dig in and realize that, in my opinion at least, there, again, showing you there's no evidence that even an atrocity happened. So in my opinion, everyone, again, these federal programs that exist, it's called extraction removal operation. And I think that's exactly what the feds did, most likely on November 13th. They got those students the hell out of that house because they did know there was a threat from one or more potential perps. This is what the feds do, folks, right? So we don't have to believe any more of the CIA and FBI nonsense, in my opinion, okay? They've largely lied to us. Leash 23, does anyone remember that mom mentioning helicopter? Yeah, great question. Amy, Tony, think they cover feds. Anyway, thanks, everyone. Thanks, Randy, for being here. Randy, you still haven't ever communicated and told me what you thought of my interview with Tommy. And I want your honest opinion. Thanks, everyone, for your honest facts. Bye, everyone. See ya. I hope I can end this live properly. Uh-oh. I don't even know how to end it, my friends. One sec here. Oh, can you guys tell me? I forget. How do I end the live? Do I press the share button on the right-hand side? Oh, boy. Let's try it. Here we go. Oh, I'm copying the link. I've copied the link, my friends. I'm sorry, this is embarrassing. How do I actually end the live now? Do I press the X? Does that get me out? Oh, man. I don't even know. Now I forget. I don't believe I forget. Oh, I'll press the X. Here we go, everyone. Thank you for being here. Till next time. See ya.